So how can we solve this equation? 5 sine theta plus 12 cosine theta equals 1. What's the first thing we should do in this problem? Well, what I think we should do is move the cosine to the other side. So we'll get 5 sine theta is equal to 1 minus 12 cosine theta. Now, in order for you to solve for sine or cosine, you need to convert either sine into cosine or cosine into sine. I'm going to try to convert sine into cosine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to square both sides. After I square both sides, on the left side, 5 squared is 25, and sine squared is just sine squared. On the right side, notice that we have a minus sign. That means we're going to have to FOIL. Here, on the left side, we didn't have to FOIL because the 5 is multiplied to the side. So on the right side, it's going to be 1 minus 12 cosine theta times 1 minus 12 cosine theta. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times negative 12 cosine is just negative 12 cosine. Negative 12 cosine times 1 is the same thing, and then the last term, negative 12 cosine times negative 12 cosine, that's 144 cosine squared. Now I'm going to convert sine squared into 1 minus cosine squared. And then I'm going to distribute the 25. So on the left side I have 25 minus 25 cosine squared equals 1. These two terms we can combine. So that's going to be negative 24 cosine theta plus 144 cosine squared theta. Now I'm going to move everything from the left side to the right side. So it's going to be 0. Now I'm going to put in standard form, so I'm going to write this one first. 144 cosine squared plus 25 cosine squared. On the right side it's going to be 169 cosine squared. So basically I added 25 to both sides. And the negative 24 cosine theta is going to stay the same. To move this 25 to the other side, I got to subtract both sides by 25. So this 1 minus that 25 will give me negative 24. So let me rewrite that on the next page. So here's what we have. 0 is equal to 169 cosine squared minus 24 cosine theta minus 24. Now let's see if we can factor this expression. Two numbers, let's see, 169 times negative 24, if we multiply those two, it's negative 4056. To factor it, we need two numbers that multiply to negative 4056, but that add to the middle term, negative 24. Now I don't think it's possible. I mean, you can see if you can find two numbers that can do that, but I tried it and I couldn't, so the only way to probably solve this problem is to use the quadratic equation. So let's say if A is equal to cosine theta, let's substitute it with A. What we have is 169 A squared minus 24A minus 24. So as you can see, it's in quadratic form. And so A, or like x, is going to be equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So that's like, let's see, b is negative 24, so two negatives make a positive, so this is going to be positive 24. And here we have 24 squared minus 4 times a, which is this number here, 169, and times c, which is that number, negative 24, divided by 2 times a, or 2 times 169. So 24 squared, that's 576. And if we multiply 4 times 169 times 24, and there's two negative signs, so it's going to be positive 16224. And if you type that in your calculator, if your calculator can reduce radicals, you should get 10 root 42 for this expression. Actually, not 10, 20. 20 root 42. If you get a decimal value for this, that's okay. You can put that here as well. So now what I'm going to do is divide this number and this number by 2. So then it reduces to 12 plus or minus 10 root 42 over 169. So now you want to separate that into two answers. 12 plus 10 root 42 over 169 and 12 minus 10 root 42 over 169. You may have to type it in using parentheses in your calculator. Now you should get these two values, 0.454482 and negative 0.31247. Now, remember in the beginning when we square both sides? Whenever you square both sides, you may get an additional answer. So one of these answers may not be the right answer, but at least one of them should be correct. The only way to know is to test both. Right now, this is equal to A, which is equal to cosine theta, since A is cosine. So cosine theta is equal to this number, which means theta is the inverse cosine of 0.454482. And it's also the inverse cosine of negative 0.31247. And if you plug that in your calculator, my calculator is in degree mode, you should get these two answers, 62.968 degrees and 108.208 degrees. Now we need to test and see which one works. So let's go back to our original equation, 5 sine theta plus 12 cosine theta equals 1. We're going to plug in theta into the left side of this equation and see if we're going to get 1 in our calculator. So I'm going to try the first answer, 62.968. Go ahead and plug it in and see what happens. See what answer that, you'll get. You have to make sure and double check if you have the right answer. So I'm going to type it in 5 sine 62.968 plus 12 cosine of that angle. And I get about 9.91, which doesn't equal 1. So this answer is not good. Now, if I plug in the other answer, 5 sine 108.208 plus 12 cosine 108.208. Now the answer that I get is 1.00003, which is equal to 1. So this answer works. And if you need it, if you want to convert it to degrees, you can take your angle, if you want to convert it to radians, multiply it by pi over 180. So 108.208 times pi divided by 180. So in radians, the answer is also 1.889 radians, which is in quadrant 2. Now, you might be wondering why only one answer worked but not the other. The reason being is when we square the equation, you get a new answer. So let me prove it. After we squared it, we eventually got this equation, 169 cosine squared minus 24 cosine theta minus 24. So if you plug in the angle, let's say 108.208, type in your calculator just exactly the way you see it on the board. Alright, let me see what I get. I got about negative 0.000299, which is very close to zero. So um, this answer works. Now, if you check the other answer, and let's see what we get if we use the 62.968 degrees. Alright, you should get 0.000847. So this answer, 62.968, it works after we squared it. Because the quadratic equation always works if it's in quadratic form. But it didn't work for the original equation. So what that means is we gained a new answer after we squared it. So whenever you have to square both sides and you're solving for x or some variable, watch out. You may get an answer that's not in the original, that doesn't work for the original equation, but works for your squared equation. So you got to make sure to check every answer to see which one works in the original equation. Usually at least one answer works, but sometimes you can get no solution. So just check for extraneous solutions. But that's it for this video. So hopefully it was informative and you've learned something new, but thanks for watching.